feel like I'm at a point in my life right now where I'm doing okay financially, but the only reason I've been able to do good financially now is because of what I've done in the past. So here are 3 money tips that I use to help keep myself debt-free and help me get ahead financially. Number 1 is paying cash for a car. The biggest expense that people have in their life is their house, and their second being their vehicle. Now I'm going to be generally speaking for someone in my similar position, someone in their early 20s, who's just trying to get ahead that extra step on their financial journey. From the age about 17 to about 21, I had a rule that I would always pay cash for a car. So here's what I did and what I believe most people should do. Because car is some of people's biggest expenses, if we can cut that expense out, we can get ahead financially pretty quick. Now I was fortunate enough to have my parents lend me a car for a little while until I had enough to save up and buy a car cash. If you don't have that same option, you can ride a bike to work, walk to work, take the bus. There's easier ways to transport than you think. If you need to buy a scooter to get to work, you could also do that. Scooters are only a few $100s. 95% of the time, vehicles are depreciating assets. But what I did in my earlier teens was I had purchased a cheap car and continued to work my way up. So for example, let's say I found a really cheap car somewhere and I would buy in private party. Now, if you have the option to do this, great. This is how I got ahead and it worked phenomenal. If you could pay cash for a cheap car, try and buy it for less than what it's worth. So if a car was worth $1,500, see if you can buy it for $1,000. Now, what you're gonna do is you're gonna drive that car for a little while. You wanna drive it and have the vehicle pretty much pay for itself. Then after, let's say 6 months or a year, if you can go that long, you're gonna trade that car up into something a little bit nicer. You're gonna go ahead and sell it for $1,500. And basically what you're gonna keep doing is keep recycling that money. This will 1, allow you to never have a car payment, and 2, it'll work your way up to having a nicer vehicle. You're not going to start out with a nice car, but that's okay. The goal is to not have any payments, but then also have reliable transportation. You can get a pretty nice car for $5,000 to $10,000. If you're just using it for transportation, anything over a $10,000 car is essentially pointless. Avoid going to dealerships. Dealerships are going to charge you certain fees. They're also going to charge you a premium for the vehicle that you're buying. Now, if you don't want to go private party and you do want to go to a dealership, that's fine. Just understand when you do buy that vehicle and you drive it off the lot, it's going to depreciate a little bit, but not nearly as much if you were to buy a brand new car and drive it off the lot. So if you go into a dealership, keep it as cheap as possible, shop around, try and find the best absolute deal you can find. The main goal with this is to have value in the vehicle and keep recycling that money and upgrade to nicer and nicer vehicles. Trust me, I don't want you guys driving a crappy car your whole life. I want you to enjoy the vehicle that you're in. If you love cars, then great, but I just think there's a lot smarter way to go about doing it. If you can just hold out for 3 or 4 years, you can pretty much buy any car you want. So that's number 1, never take on a car loan. Number 2, credit cards. Best and worst financial tool I think there is out there. Credit card debt, I have to say, is probably the most common debt that I see, and it is terrible. It's probably right next there with student loans, except with student loans, you're actually getting some type of value. Credit card debt is someone who just cannot control their finances and basically is buying something and paying it back at a super high interest rate. Now on the flip side of that, I'm going to say something. Credit cards are the only way that I pay for things. So for example, credit cards have a lot of offers. They're going to give cash back, travel, all sorts of different programs that they have. The credit card company wants you to sign up hoping that you're not going to make your whole entire payments and you're going to make just the minimum payment and pay them interest. That's how credit cards make their money. But if you're smarter than the average human being, you can play the system. I have never once paid interest on a credit card. However, it's the only thing that I use. My credit cards pay for all my trips. They pay for all sorts of things. I get cash back, I get travel points. Credit cards are great because it also gives you a level of security when purchasing things. You can get notifications where someone buys something, it'll notify you right away, and if you didn't make that purchase, you can cancel it. Credit cards will also help you build your credit score. With a higher credit score, you can get better loans on purchasing assets. The reason people get screwed up in credit cards is they find out they have a credit card limit of, let's say, $3,000, and they go and spend that whole $3,000, and then the credit card company says, hey, you only need to pay us $150 a month. Well, that sounds pretty good, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna charge 27% interest on top of that. If you cannot control yourself, do not use credit cards at all. If you can control yourself, use only credit cards. Credit cards can be an absolute tool if they're used correctly, but they can absolutely destroy you if you don't. Number 3, and all you influencers are gonna hate me for this one, but stop being materialistic. All you Miami people, I see you renting your Lambo Lambos, wearing your rollies, and going to Club 11 VIP. Don't think I don't know. I would say that not being materialistic is more of a mindset, but if you can adapt to this, then this will change your financial future forever. And I will guarantee that. Social media right now has a huge influence on being materialistic. It's our human nature to want to keep up with what everyone else is doing. We need to step away from what is something that we actually love, what we actually enjoy, versus what we are doing to make other people happy or to make ourselves happy in the short term. We have to find the line between the two things. Now, I'm a very frugal person, and I'm not saying to be like me. I'm not saying to go out and not spend any money and just live a very boring life. I love the life I live, and I wouldn't change it for a single thing. About 5 years back, I went ahead and decided what were some things that were super important to me and what were things that didn't matter at all. So let's just say you're a travel type of person, right? You love to travel. That is your thing. I would not say to cut back on traveling. In fact, I would say to go all in on traveling. Travel everywhere you want. Spend all your money on doing travel related things. There's got to be a fine line between what you can budget towards traveling, what you can budget towards living expenses, and what you can actually save. If you love to travel, then look for the best travel deals, find the best places to go out and visit. Find a way to save money and travel at the same time. Don't go out and buy a fancy car if you don't care about cars. Don't go out and buy a whole bunch of designer clothing if you don't care about designer clothing, but 3 of your friends all wear Versace. I'm all for people putting their money into things that they absolutely love, but then cutting back on things that just don't matter to them. But I found out that when I had purchased something, it was very short-term happiness. If I went out and bought a Lamborghini right now, I would have a lot of fun with that Lamborghini, but that fun would probably only last for about 4 or 5 weeks. After I had showed everyone, drove it around, that novelty would wear off. But you know what wouldn't wear off? The depreciating asset that I had purchased and that huge liability that's weighing over my shoulders. So what I did and what I think you should do also is really sit down and find out what do you absolutely love that if no one else in this world existed, that you would still want to go and do. If I had no other influence in the world and I was the only person making the decision, that's how I like to make my purchases. Is this something that's going to make me happy or serve a purpose for a certain goal? And also, if you can switch the mindset to where if you do buy materialistic things, see if you can buy them in a way that they are assets and not liabilities. Like the car example, cars are depreciating assets. If you like houses though, houses tend to be appreciating assets. If you like designer clothing, is there a way that you can wholesale or find discounted designer clothing that can actually retain its value so that if you are no longer interested in having designer clothing, that you can resell all of it and collect all your money back? So just to do a quick recap, number 1, never have an auto loan. There will be a point in your life when you can obtain an auto loan, but that time is not now. So never take on an auto loan. Always pay cash for a cheap car and find the best deal you can. Number 2, never take on credit card debt. Use credit cards as a way of doing transactions. They are to always be paid off in full. Never ever hold a credit card balance. If you do not have the discipline to pay off your credit card, never get a credit card in the first place. And number 3, don't be materialistic. You're your own person. Don't listen to other people around you. Who cares what they think? Spend money on things that make you happy in the long term and that are essential to your life and that define you. Don't spend money on things trying to please other people. If you guys enjoyed this video, please share this video with a friend. All I ask is that you share so that we can get the word out and I can help as many people as possible. Until next week's video, peace.